New business, item 4.1, the Environment update on indoor air quality assessment. I'll turn it over to Dr. Ahern.
Thank you. So joining us this evening as guests via Zoom, we don't normally have a Zoom link up, but we are able to bring guests in. We have our consultants, Enviromed, who have been engaged in a various set of assessments regarding all of our buildings on indoor air quality measures. They've been wonderfully supportive thus far. They'll give you a status update on some of their findings, recommendations to the district, and next steps. In the audience are our facilities director and deputy director who've also been super collaborative in this entire effort. And Megan Savage, the safety officer, and Tammy Cunningham, deputy director of HR, has also been part of our overall team attending to indoor air quality and addressing, maintaining healthy indoor air quality and addressing concerns in our schools. So with that, I will turn it over to Larry Cannon, who is the CEO and owner of Enviromed, and he can introduce his team and kick us off.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for the great introduction. I'm here tonight with Carmina, Tyler, and Ethan, and I appreciate the update about what you're doing there. You're doing such great work at the school. And it's been a pleasure working with, as you say, with all of the staff. They've been very accommodating. We've been able to get a lot of our project done, and we're happy to be here tonight, affording us the time to talk about what we found out from the survey. So I appreciate the introduction. So a little bit about, starting with Enviromed, we were established in 1986. We have offices in Dedham, Mass, Barrington, Rhode Island, Brooklyn, New York, and Meriden, Connecticut. We do a lot of different things. One of the major things that we do right now is indoor air quality and mold assessments, which we've been working on with you for the past 4 months. And as I say, it's gone very well. So from my personal background, I'm a graduate of the Yale School of Medicine, did my Master of Public Health there, and was a faculty lecturer for the past 10 years at Yale. And I mentioned certifications. Public health, I'm a certified industrial hygienist, certified safety professional, certified microbial consultant, and registered sanitarian. So one of the things to say is, over the years, we've probably done, thousands of indoor air quality assessments, and we're happy that we're invited to do the Barnesville work, which is a significant piece of work, actually. In addition, my background, I actually was a published author on carpal tunnel syndrome back. It was actually my Yale essay, which got published internationally about carpal tunnel syndrome. So I'm very proud of that. But we've done a lot of environmental work since founding the company. My original partner was a physician, and that's where the name Enviromed comes from. We have many affiliations: the American Industrial Hygiene Association, American Indoor Air Quality Council, which gets involved with indoor air certifications and advisory work for infrastructure projects on highways. So I take you through the general concept of how we look at mold, and where we would look at mold in any environment, in any school or any building, is that mold is an absolutely normal part of the environment. It's found in in foods, it's found in cheeses, and it's pretty much omnipresent in the environment, and so it's not necessarily something that it's gained somewhat of a negative connotation, but it shouldn't necessarily have that. When we worked with part of the team, especially Megan brought up the idea that the district has already put out some do's and don'ts. So I thought we would mention those, because part of being successful in dealing with mold is really recruiting all of the stakeholders, whether it be the faculty, the students, the custodial staff, and so on. One of the things that we always recommend is, dusting regularly with microfiber cloths, clean surfaces weekly, use moisture-resistant materials for storage and decoration, and limit clutter. These are things that can be done, every day in the classrooms. Avoid porous decorations, report leaks and water stains. That's very important, especially with letting the facilities staff know about that. Empty dehumidifiers daily and replace filters. And mold, as I said, it really is everywhere. It can grow on wood, paper, carpet, food, and many porous materials. When it's seen, it should not be ignored because it can lead to some issues down the road. So part of what we like to stress is that when mold is seen, that it be cleaned up quickly. Another one of the don'ts, number of the don'ts: don't store paper or books on the floor. Avoid fabric bins, shag rugs, and soft furnishings. Don't skip dusting or cleaning, or ignore damp spots or odors. Don't block vents because you want good air circulation and filtration. Don't use cardboard boxes because they're porous. They will grow mold. Avoid overcluttering, and don't skip dehumidifier emptying because you can get water leaks there. So generally what we need to know about mold: first of all, typically it's not visible. Occasionally we'll see mold on a surface and say, okay, I see something that looks like mold. But clearly, one of the things that's most important from a health standpoint is that we want to keep mold out of the air. Okay, if we can control airborne spores, which are allergens, and they can, trigger breathing issues, that is, particularly important. And where you are at Barnstable, moisture is a key factor in mold growth. You're a coastal town, and you have naturally higher humidity. So the challenge with your engineering and systems that you have in the schools is pretty great. And so we understand that occasionally there will be episodes of mold growth within the facilities. And in coastal areas, you have wind, rain, seasonal changes that can increase indoor moisture, especially in areas where you don't have up-to-date HVAC systems, which may not be all of your facilities. So what did Environment look at? Well, we see the indoor air environment really as a very holistic situation where, mold is really part of the indoor air environment. We look at pollutants, we look at the ventilation, the temperature, humidity, conditions within the building, and conditions regarding maintenance and HVAC systems. Another thing, particularly, in case where you have what's going on with the fires in Canada, but generally to check for particulate, either PM 2.5 or PM 10. So we recommend promptly addressing, removing, and cleaning visible mold, being proactive and diligently addressing superficial and also airborne mold, which creates a healthy environment. So when we did our evaluations of the building, we specifically evaluated temperature, relative humidity, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds, formaldehyde, and particulates, as well as mold spores and fungi. So from that perspective, as I mentioned earlier, it was really more of a holistic evaluation. We didn't just go in and check for mold, but we checked for all of these particular independent variables to evaluate them best on the standards. We use real-time meters. Here's an example of a formaldehyde meter and an IAQ meter for measuring, and then a PID, which is a check for volatile organic compounds, as well as a data RAM for particulates. We regularly do these studies, and the standards that exist usually reside in these four regulatory bodies. Either it will be regulated by OSHA, EPA, It could be ASHRAE, which is the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers, or it could be LEED. So, some of the school construction that's done today, much of it has LEED certification for indoor air quality and sustainability. So let's get into the survey. So we had 3 full-time environment staff. We went through all 9 schools. It took a total of 66 person days, 8 hours a day, for a total of 528 hours. And we started in February on the 26th and ended on March 28, 2025. So one thing you need to know is the intensive nature of the inspection we did. We looked at air quality in classrooms, offices, cafeterias, gymnasiums, storage areas, and mechanical spaces. Here's some examples of the spaces that we looked at. So it was really, I have to say, a very forensic examination of the building. And for indoor air sampling, we took 236 air samples. We took 102 surface samples, which are tape lifts. And all of those samples were analyzed by an independent, nationally accredited laboratory. And here's an example of the detail of showing how we do the analysis, sampling for the analysis. We have an air sample there to the left that's called a biopump, and we're sampling a sample of the air, so many liters, up to 10 liters of air, collecting any mold spores that might be there on those filters. And then in the center photo, you see us taking a tape lift of something that is suspect. So we want to confirm if it's mold or not. We have prepared formal draft reports for all 9 schools. In there, we put sampling methods, sampling locations, all of the reference guidelines I mentioned earlier, a complete photo journal. It's labeled, and every sample that we collected has an associated photo of that location. We have a complete laboratory report of every air and surface sample and a summary section with conclusions and recommendations by, that I personally reviewed every one of the reports as a certified mold consultant and signed off on them. It should be noted that the reports are comprehensive, they're factual, and they're very transparent. So the good news is, and this isn't always the news I deliver, but the good news is that there was no airborne toxigenic mold in any of the 9 schools, in any of the samples collected. There was no airborne mold amplification, meaning, we do baseline outside samples. We didn't find an amplification of even allergenic molds in the air samples we took. There were some surface mold found in the various schools, but they were not airborne. And those items, temperature, relative humidity, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, formaldehyde, VOCs, and particulates were all within acceptable norms. So it's a very good report. So I would say the 9 Barnstable schools are clearly safe for occupancy and provide a healthy, supportive indoor air quality environment. And one of the things, I asked myself after this, because quite frankly, I wasn't sure what we would find. And I know in speaking with Doug in facilities and Katri and some of the other staff and Megan and Tammy, and of course, Sarah, we did note that the filtration systems are very good within the schools. And Doug and Katri mentioned that you have a very good filter replacement schedule. And I suspect that maintenance and HVAC care that's taken on the filtration changes had a lot to do with the clean air that we found in the buildings. So I have to say Barnstable leadership has been engaged since day one. Facilities escorted us and provided us full access. I mean, wherever we wanted to go, we got there. And everybody was very helpful in getting this project done, which is not always the case. And the involvement was from day one, from the first day that we met, had our meeting, had our Zoom, from right to now. I mean, everybody's been very cooperative. So let's look at the schools. Next. And so first, one of the schools we looked at was the Barnstable Community Innovation School. And I just have one slide following, which shows all of the parameters of the real time from temperature to carbon dioxide were perfect. We had a couple of rooms with slightly elevated VOCs. That's pretty normal. We find that where you have perfumes or air fresheners, you find that. And also what was normal in the afternoon, we had some CO2 levels that were increased, but nothing to worry about. And the key thing, no airborne amplification of mold and no presence of any toxigenic mold and no ratio abnormalities. So that's a real plus. We did find, as I mentioned earlier in the talk, some areas where we had tape lifts that found mold. Most of the cases, the mold was not toxigenic, but we are recommending that the areas be cleaned because we don't want it to become an airborne issue. So we're making those recommendations in each of the reports. And next, Barnstable Intermediate School, kind of the same scenario. We had a little slightly elevated temperature part of the day. We had some elevated VOCs. Again, it's normal. In the afternoon, some CO2 were elevated, but everything was below OSHA within the guidelines. And again, here's a comprehensive list. So we're being very transparent here. Wherever we found suspect and we verified it with the lab, we said, okay, we believe these areas should be cleaned and tested after. And again, we'll go through the next one. United Elementary School, same thing. We had a few rooms, elevated VOCs, some CO2, but no pathogenic molds, and some areas needing to be cleaned. And for Barnstable, West Barnstable Elementary, kind of a similar scenario. The only issue there was a little bit of CO2 in the afternoon, but again, well below OSHA. OSHA standards 5,000, and these were way lower than 5,000. And then some areas we identified just for surface cleaning. Centerville, same thing, pretty much a great picture, a little bit of CO2, which is normal, and no mold issues. And 2 minor areas isolated that should be cleaned. And then Enoch Cobb Early Learning Center, 1 room had some VOCs, some CO2 levels that went up in the afternoon. But again, the mold profile was very good. And some areas to mention that will be need to be cleaned. And then for Hyannis West, similar profile. Again, just 1 room with some VOCs. And the VOC standard that we use, would been mentioned, is LEEDS, which is 500 parts per billion. So it's really a very low standard level. So it's really not a major issue to find some VOCs. And they're the areas that would need to be cleaned. And West Villages, kind of similar, some VOCs in 2 rooms, and then CO2 in the afternoon. But again, it's what we would expect, without having a totally upgraded HVAC system in every one of these schools. It's what we find typically, and some areas to be cleaned. And then, of course, Barnstable High School, which is a very large school, one of the largest ones that we've ever evaluated. And we're happy to say that we only had a few things that came up. One was that in the area where they were using clay in one of the art rooms, we had some particulates, but I guess you would understand that because you've got dry clay and you've got a kiln, so you'd expect a little bit of particulate airborne. And then only 4 rooms in this cement school that had anything above LEED standard on VOCs and some CO2 in the afternoon, but no, 440,000 square feet, no airborne amplification or toxigenic mold airborne, which is pretty remarkable. I would say better than most schools that we have tested. Being a big school, we identified areas that we want cleaned, whether they're by suspect or actually doing the testing. But part of our job is to be proactive. And so as far as cleaning, we recommend that custodial staff that work for Doug and Katri can, if it's under 10 square feet, okay to clean using an EPA disinfectant. If it's bigger than that and it's an area of concern, you might want a professional remediator to do it. But we recommend zero tolerance after the cleaning. So when we do the testing, we don't want to find any mold after the disinfection process occurs. And again, while they do it, we typically would have an air scrubber set up to clean the air during the cleaning process. Typically what happens, you remove damaged porous materials, and once that's done, you do the post-clearance testing with a tape lift or an air sample, and of course, ongoing maintenance, which has been good based on the air sampling. So here's an example of an air sample being collected, and how do we verify? When we do air clearance, we don't want toxigenic mold or any abnormal amplification. And for certification of a surface, we want no detectable mold. So those are our standards. So what's next? Looking to the future, we have put together a training program based on Tools for Schools. We've used these training programs very successfully in other school systems to make everybody more aware of things that they need to be thinking about during the day and in cleaning and so on at the school facilities. And the training includes topics on moisture control, clarifying common concerns, real-life examples, decision-making, and response protocols to reporting. So here is just a summary with an outline of what we typically do on training. We talk about creating a safe environment for breathing in the environment, understanding respiratory system, HVAC systems, identifying biological and chemical contaminants, et cetera. So we're looking forward to getting that training up and running with, in the field with the team in Barnstable. Important is that we've listened to community concerns, and we believe that, certainly the school and the representative from Barnstable have been great. They've communicated the community concerns to us, and they've responded by partnering very well with us. They have given us clear and honest information, and they have been good communicators throughout this process. They're looking for a long-term and sustainable initiative to keep the air quality great as it is. Environment has collaborated with Barnstable also on working on a webpage to design to reassure students, faculty, staff with clarity and actionable guidance and transparent communications. And the web page that's in process, Carmina has been working with the Barnstable team to provide a district-wide IAQ initiative, address common questions. So, and such as, when should I report a mold problem? When do I think I have a mold problem? And to connect all of the teachers, faculty, parents to valuable IAQ resources, including EPA, and even how to submit a report saying they want facilities to take a look at a mold issue. And we expect that site will be up and running by the end of July. Here's just an example of what this webpage will look like, and some icons there that you can click on to go and get more information about mold. One thing that we look to the future and we recommend is that there be periodic spot checks on a monthly basis for each school for mold and IAQ. And we would recommend that, especially during the summer months when it's humid and we feel as if we want to get ahead of a problem that might be developing. And it provides a proactive approach to dealing with any indoor air concerns. And then last, and which is the long term on the horizon, is to look at scheduling the mechanical engineering HVAC assessments and evaluations. And those obviously need to dovetail with the district's capital improvement plans. I know that there are at least a couple of schools, or one school in particular, that's having a lot of capital improvements to improve the envelope of the building and the HVAC system. So that's how we see things. And we're open to questions now. And I appreciate the time. You've given us a lot of time to put all of this information together. And as I mentioned during the talk, you will have draft reports. They're in final draft right now. They've been sent for a final review, and I'm sure they'll be released shortly. So I want to, from my team to yours, appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight, and open to any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cannon. Before I open it up for questions or comments, I just want to thank you for the very thorough report. I was part of the RFP committee, and you certainly have lived up to what your proposal indicated you intended to do, and I thank you. I'll start with Jen.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for the presentation. It's very clear that you did a very thorough job, and I think the families were asking for that, and I think so was the superintendent and the school committee, quite frankly. And I appreciate all the information and how you broke it down school by school. I think that's invaluable. And I guess my question is really for the superintendent, and I know the answer to it. I just want to make sure everybody hears it, that when this report is finally given to us, we will put it on the website and maybe email it out to parents, right?
Yeah, we will share the final reports and this presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great report, great presentation as well, and the results were great. So, that's the complete package there. I just have one question. As you're aware, we had quite an issue at one of our buildings last summer, BUES, and I know you recommend monthly IAQ assessments. This mold seemed to come fast, quick. Is there more we should be doing for that particular building this summer? Because probably like every other summer, it will be a hot and humid summer at some point, and we never want to go through that nightmare again.
Okay, I think it's a good question. I didn't catch your first name.
Peter.
Peter. So I've seen this happen before. And one of the things that I've seen in my experience is if an HVAC system, for example, has been shut down, if that happens for a period of time, what happens is that you get an accumulation of moisture and you don't have enough air movement, and you can have, it's seemingly overnight, everything is covered with mold. So I think the HVAC systems and engineering has to be working. Even if there's nobody in that building, you need air changes, you need the filters working, and you really need surveillance. I had a case probably about 10 years ago. I got a call from a university, and it was from the facilities director, and the facilities director said, Larry, we walked into the dormitory and everything in there was covered with mold. And we were just shocked. We don't know what to do. School was starting in like 3 weeks, and they had temporarily paused the HVAC units working. And so the humidity went high, a lot of fabric. There were a lot of curtains in there. There were rugs, and, it was a tough situation. But, as I'm saying, if you can keep ahead, at least from the engineering side, and do that surveillance, that would be helpful. It's not always easy. I mean, you are in a very moist environment, and, it's going to be a challenge. And not every school and not every school system anywhere has schools that are perfectly engineered. So it's a process. And so you have to just be vigilant about that.
Thank you. Maybe this is for the superintendent then. Thank you, Larry. Is our plan at BUES to leave the AC on for the summer?
This might be a more technical question. I think there's a bit of a difference between the AC and the HVAC system.
Yeah,
And the AC at BUES, if it's on, needs to be, there's another layer to the AC with respect to the AC is designed to have about 1,000 people in it. And if the set point is incorrect, it can actually get too cold, which can cause its own problem in terms of condensation and moisture. So I'm going to defer, in terms of those settings, I'm going to defer to Doug and Katri and Enviromed. At a minimum, we need to have HVAC and the exhaust running. We don't have AC in all of our schools.
Right.
And
Right,
so, I think when we do run the AC, it'll be very carefully done because we also have to watch that set point stuff.
Yeah, because, we don't ever want to go through what we went through, that's for sure. Thank you.
Andre?
Yeah, my question, when your draft comes out, will that include, and you might have said this, I'm sorry, the number of, will that include guidance for us going forward, 5, 10 years? And I ask that because, our buildings are older, there's a range, but some of them quite old, and so, will we have an understanding of how best to maintain some of our buildings, again, World War II era, kind of going into the future?
Right. I think the report's focused on the current situation and what needs to be done, if there's cleaning that needs to be done, that kind of thing, how to do that cleaning. There is a phase that we proposed originally with our proposal, which would be to have an HVAC engineer come in and evaluate the HVAC systems. And again, it would make most sense if you're going to be doing upgrades, maybe to prioritize which of those schools you would want to look at. But we do have mechanical engineer at the point where you want them to look at it. That's the really, to answer the question, the more longer range situation is how old is the HVAC system? How efficient is it? How is it doing in terms of the ventilation of the entire facility? That's really the mechanical engineering assessment. I know Doug has already done some of that with the school that's having the construction project, but that would generally be my recommendation, is to continue that as you look at your upcoming projects, your capital projects that have that mechanical engineering assessment. That's important. That's a good question.
Thank you. I have what I need unless superintendent has any questions. Nope. So thank you so much for the report and for coming and addressing it. And thank you to your team who was also here.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much. It's been our pleasure working with Barnstable. You've all been great, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Have a nice night.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Thank you.